talking now, honestly. All right, so thank you all for being here. Of course, if you don't know me, my name is Betsy Calhoun. I'm Director of Music at St. John's. I never take it for granted everybody knows who I am, unless I turn around like this and you can see the back of my head. But this is Marissa Hall. She is Assistant Director of Music, and her responsibilities include the choir school and working with choristers, as well as working with children and youth, not only through music, but through Vacation Bible School or anything that's youth related, trying to make those connections. Come on in. It's not too late, I just started yabbering right now. Are you recording this, Peyton? Now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll put on my face. All right, so we're going to talk about different areas of the choir school, and but my job, I'm going to talk to you about a quick overview of what has happened, because for many reasons we have not moved steadily because, as you can guess, the pandemic, and then Father Dave pursuing his degree, and then Abby intermediate, and so we've had some kind of slow moments and some not so slow moments, and so people are wondering what's going on with the choir school. So I want to just remind everyone of what we've been through. So here we go. 21 years ago, now don't laugh, because it's not going to take this. We did a children's opera called Noah's Flood with instruments and a buku of recorders, and we did this in collaboration with Grace Mission. And Elizabeth Crow and I worked together, and she at the time was what was your title there?
The Director of Children and Family Ministry.
Right. And so we had this idea, wouldn't it be great if we could bring the two groups together? And so we did, and it was hard work, but it was so wonderful. And I just absolutely loved it that our choristers got to know the children and youth from Grace and vice versa. I thought it was just a wonderful way of bringing two distinct kind of different communities together and for a wonderful, wonderful event. So I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could offer a program to the community and to our own youth and have that same kind of collaboration. Well, that it didn't go away, it was always in the back of my mind. So beginning in 2011, Father David had many discussions about the St. John's Chorister program, how we can expand it, invite other children and youth to be part of the choristers. And he mentioned choir school, and I thought, well, this would be great. This kind of would bring in that vision that I had of bringing disparate groups together. And then in 2015, Father Dave encouraged us to research choir schools in the U.S. and compare them. So a small committee was formed to do that work. It was Marissa, myself, Elizabeth, and Ron Booth. And so we reached out, called people, got some information, and trying to see what's out there and what St. John's could possibly do. So in the fall of 2017, a St. John's Choir School program was drafted by Marissa and shared with the executive committee. Then in April 2018, now it goes like this very slowly because we're both working and it's kind of start and stop, but we're slowly making progress. So in 2018, the choir school was proposed as an initiative at a parish-wide meeting. A year later, the choir school initiative is approved as a part of the Fruits of the Vineyard 2019-2024 strategic plan. Then in December 2018, the vestry adopts a charter for the Fruits of the Vineyard plan, and in April 2019 is approved as part of the strategic plan. So we're feeling great, we are on the path, we are ready to take off. And then after that, we met with our gold champions. These are subcommittees of the strategic plan, and they just check in to see that you really are doing something on your initiative. And our gold champions are Cynthia Tunnicliffe and Laura Lindley. So we talked about what we had been doing, and they were both pleased and happy with our progress. Then the next thing we did, we started recruiting people to serve on the choir school advisory board. I think, again, this was Father Dave's suggestion, and we thought it was a good one. And so the members now, a few left, and Ron Booth unfortunately passed away. He was a wonderful gentleman and just a wonderful supporter of the music program. But above that, he was just a very kind person, so we miss him. So I'm on the board, Marissa's on the board, Mike Norris, is he, no, he's probably still divesting, okay. Mary Call Proctor, Jonathan Jackson, who did the announcement, Greg Springer, whom you met, Megan Benson, there she is, with her daughter Sarah, a member of the choir, Deborah McNamara, Sue and Tim Cross. Tim is here, Sue is nurturing a wee one to be a chorister, right? They just had a grandchild, so. And Elizabeth Crow and Carol Ann Matthews. Now, all the other folks are parishioners, but Carol Ann Matthews, we were encouraged to find someone in the community that was not a member of St. John's. And she is a music educator, retired, and she plays with the Fried Turkeys. She sings with the Fried Turkeys, y'all know Carol Ann? And she is a member at Trinity and very passionate about music education and was so excited. Marissa has met with her. So she was just a wonderful contribution to the committee. So that's the advisory board, and that's really basically what they've been doing is advising and listening to us. And of course, when the pandemic comes and it hits and we come to a halt because it's a pandemic, and now our eyes are on how do we keep our churches going? How do we keep our music programs going? Because that was the priority. So we did nothing for a long time. So then in April 2021, so basically 2 years later, Marissa and I met with the Executive and Personnel Committee to discuss the initiative and timeline for the school. And then Father Dave announces that he's leaving to pursue his doctorate. And then we thought, well, that's it. And then he says, oh no, you keep on going. And I thought, well, we'll see what interim Mother Abby says. And she says, keep on going. And we said, okay. So Mother Abby's interim, and then she leaves. And then we think, well, we're not sure what's going to happen next. But with Mother Abby, we met with the vestry in November 2021. A vote was taken in January of 2022. So we made a presentation to the vestry in November. So in January 2022, and that is this year, right? Yeah, that's this year. And then Marissa's hired to run the choir school and work with the St. John's children and youth in all areas. Then Abby leaves for her new job at Trinity Church, which happens to be where Marissa came from. So they just do a switcheroo there. And then then again we think, well, we don't know who the new rector is. We don't know if the new rector, he or she may want a choir school or what's gonna happen. Well, we just didn't know, so we basically did nothing because we didn't feel like we were empowered to or should. We wanted to wait. We wanted to, because even though these things were voted on, we both felt like that we needed to have the support of the new vestry and the parishioners and the new rector. And so Lonnie comes and he is very excited about this initiative, but also he wants it to be clear about what's happening, and he wants to know, as we all do, if we're going to really be behind this or not. And I think that's wise. I think you don't take on something like this unless you really feel like you have the support of the parish and the leadership. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so what we've done since then is just we're working on building up the youth program here, chorister program here at St. John's. So that is about where we are. Any questions about that? Great. Okay, so now my next job is to introduce Marissa Hall. All right. Marissa came to Tallahassee in fall of 2012 to begin undergraduate studies at MSU, and if I'm talking too fast or not loud enough, let me know. The choir, adult choir is always complaining, so it's okay, you can raise your hand and say stop. All right, so she attended church services at St. John's. She joined the choir and later changed her major from film studies to church music. Now, I gotta tell you, the film school said, you're doing what? Because it's so hard to get into the film studies, right? You can sit down now. Well, it's like, okay. So she was she just fell in love with St. John's, and she loved singing in the choir, and so anyway, that's, one reason she changed her major, and she began her organ studies because she was determined that this is what she wanted to do with her life. So she offered to volunteer and work with the choristers on their theory workbooks, helped in the choral library, and did other administrative jobs. She was not paid. She truly wanted to do this. A year later, she was hired as St. John's Sacred Music Intern, a position that we've had for a few years. And during her time here, she assisted with the England 2015 choir tour with administration, fundraising, publicity, and even made a film about the England trip. You remember that, Mary Paul, that film she made? It was very good. And it was a film that was made to thank people who supported the England 2015 trip. And she continued her work with the choristers, so that's what she did. She also facilitated our first summer music camp in 2016, and that camp continues today. I think this is in its 7th year, next year will be its 8th, and she has been the director of the camp for 3 years. So I turned the baton to her, and I actually do have a baton, because I was the majorette, that's one thing. I didn't really throw it to her, but anyway. So when she graduated from FSU, she went to Boston University to pursue a master's in church music, is that what it's called, or sacred music? And she worked remotely on the choir school project while pursuing her master's degree. So, she's doing juggling. And then in Boston, she worked at first part-time and later full-time at Trinity Church, which is one of the biggest Episcopal churches and has the most wonderful music program, especially the chorister program. It's fantastic. Michael and I went on they did a choir tour, and we were groupies at the tour, and so we just sat and watched and interacted with the choristers. We did not sing with the choristers, but it was so fun to be around such engaged, vibrant, crazy kids who sang beautifully. And so anyway, she was the music and worship administrator, so it was a full-time job. So she's finished her master's degree, but she's doing that full-time, and she's also the organist and choir master at another church, St. Peter's, Cambridge, because her duties did not include Sunday morning. So as you can imagine, she's doing a lot, and this seems to be a pattern with Marissa. In fact, Richard Webster, who's the director of music, or he's retired now, called me up and said, well, she's applied for this part-time administration. He said, what are her strengths? And I went, blah, 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 blah. And then he said, well, what are her weaknesses? And I thought, there's gotta be something. And I said, she will work too much. Which of course every boss wants to hear, right? But seriously, she works so hard that she needs to have some boundaries. Did he set the boundaries? No. Anyway, so and then during the pandemic, she supervised and edited the choir videos that we made for worship. Y'all remember that? That seems like years ago, but that was Marissa with her film editing skills, I suppose. Or she learned on the fly, who knows. She currently is on the National Board of the Royal School of Church Music in America, is on the editorial board of the Association of Anglican Musicians. These are all national Episcopal groups. Has published articles in professional church publications and has written several hymns. 5 were commissioned. In fact, she got paid for that. That's what that means. She got paid for it. But one of the commission was for the 2022 General Convention that we just had. And another hymn won an award at BU in religious studies and something like that. So she loves hymnody, she loves words, she's an excellent writer. And then in addition to that, she's a contributor to the curated database of sacred music by women. So what she and other in this committee, they take the lectionary and then they list some pieces that can be sung that are written by women, and so that we can kind of incorporate more of music composed by women. And it's a very, very good database. So she has many gifts, clearly that's obvious to anybody who reads her. That's not why I think I do think it's important to have those gifts, but what I really care about and really think is so important about her is that she has a passion for her faith. This is not just, I like church music. And that's all good and great, but you need to have, I believe, just a passion for the church and a love of God, and let that shine through. And Marissa does do that. She also has a passion for working with children and obviously music. That's critical because I believe firmly that for children to be healthy and strong, we need to for church to be healthy and strong, we need to bring in children and youth as much as we can. I feel like that's, I want to do that because I love to work with children and youth, but also I think that's healthy and it empowers them and it sometimes, a child should lead them that scripture passage. I think this is important. And her creativity, not only in music, but approaching problems solved. If there's a problem, she doesn't just, oh, well, we can't do this, and then she just goes really crazy about how we can solve this problem. It's very creative. And her attention to detail and a strong work ethic. So, that's Marissa in a nutshell. So, my time is up. And now Marissa's going to talk to you about the choir school, and I've got this is her page. All right.
Thank you, Betsy.
You are so welcome.
I'm really glad I sat down. Now you've heard all about the history and about what this thing is that we're trying to do. And so my job, I think, is to answer the questions that I think might be on your mind. And so we'll have some time for, I hope, for questions and answers after this. But I thought about this and thought, what does the congregation need to know? What possibly are they curious about, or what's confusing? So I'll start from the top. What is the choir school, and how is it different than the choristry program that we already have? And basically, as I hope some of you have brochures, and so you can kind of see a little bit about what this project is. But basically, it's an intensive after-school opportunity which serves children through music and mentoring. Currently, our choristry program, and I love it and have loved it for a while, as you heard, meets once weekly on Wednesdays for an hour and 15 minutes, and then they meet again on Sunday mornings to sing. The choir school would be rehearsing, meeting, theory, and music lessons 3 times a week, plus Sundays. And as you'll see in the program, we've made a daily schedule for 5 days a week for those kids who need consistency in their after-school care. 3 days of those would be intensive music education. So that's sort of the difference between the level of intensity between what we currently have and what we're hoping to have. Second question, I thought, okay, how does this fit into St. John's mission? Why are we doing this? Sure, it sounds great, but what is the purpose for this community of faith to be doing it? And so I thought, all right, let me find St. John's mission. So I went to the website, so clear. To love Christ and our neighbors in Tallahassee and the world. I thought, all right, this is pretty easy. There are so many ways to love your neighbor, and I'm grateful that this community does many of them in many different ways. But through music, I think loving our neighbor may look like providing an opportunity for excellence and formation for kids, and providing a safe space for children to grow and learn. I feel very strongly that the church has a duty to do that for a community. Music is part of it, but it's not the reason. And that means something. I care about music a lot, as you know, but this is about the kids and an opportunity for them to grow in their faith and in their community. And so the longest questions, why this and why not something else? There are, as I said, many opportunities. There's many extracurriculars. There's many wonderful ministries at St. John's. And I believe, for many reasons, that children in general need consistency, a challenge, and community. And I think the choir school does all of that and more. As Father Bill preached this morning, community is what it's all about. And so, yes, kids can have community in lots of different extracurriculars. And yes, they learn skills in those extracurriculars too. They learn teamwork and leadership and self-confidence. They can learn that at school as well as here. And I think that they learn that here, but they also learn professionalism, independence, what it's like to sing alongside an intergenerational community. And the most important thing, I think, is that they learn service. So many formative opportunities exist for children. Not many of them are outwardly directed. And I think choir is a wonderful opportunity for kids to learn, to grow, to have opportunities to do things that scare them, to make big mistakes, as we say in choir, in a place where they will be loved and supported, but also to realize that what they're doing is serving a larger community. It's not about getting really good at a particular skill. Music is the tool, but it's about service and it's about community. And I hear a lot of folks say, you know, that's a lot of commitment. You know, if you really thought, that's a lot of commitment. And it is. That's the point. And I think anything that's worth doing, anything that's a challenge, is a lot of commitment. For anyone who's ever tried to learn a language, that's a lot of commitment. Music is a language, right? And so if you took that language class once a week for an hour, you might be okay at it, but I don't think you'd be fluent. And if you've ever tried to get good at a sport, if you tried to practice once a week, again, you probably wouldn't be that good at it. And again, it's not about the skill or about being good necessarily, but I think it's about the ritual, the practice of committing, coming, and being part of something bigger than yourself. The heart of Chorister life is service. As I said, music is the tool. And the rewards for this program, I think, are pretty clear, but are worth stating again. I think music lasts a lifetime. No matter how old you are, you can sing in the choir. A lot of wonderful formative activities that kids go through end at high school. They'll never pick up that ball again, maybe. Or maybe they will. Maybe they're awesome. That's awesome. That's good too. Or maybe they'll do intramural sports like I did and just suck at it. But they'll sing music for a lifetime. They'll learn how much fun it is to work hard and hear the results of that hard work. Children know how to work hard and they love it. They'll form enduring friendships in their communities that they wouldn't form necessarily at school. You meet kids in the Chorister program that live in different areas of town, that have different ways of being and living, and they all come together in this one spot. Friendships last a lifetime, and a ministry that makes a difference in lives beyond themselves. It shapes the children, but the children shape the community. And I truly believe that the choir school and the choristers who go through that program will shape St. John's. So that's why I think why this is important. That's pretty much all I really want to say about this. I think I could talk about this forever, but I want to have some time also for questions or comments or sorry, yes, before that, we want to hear from two folks who serve on the advisory board. So Debbie McNamara and then Tim Cross, and so they have extremely important things to say. So Debbie, please.
Path cleared for me.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak a little bit about why this is a passionate experience for me to serve on the advisory board. My son Nate, some of you may know him, we tried to come to church once and he was a little unsure about the whole thing and it was a struggle to get him to come back. And one day I came to the cafe and saw a flyer for the choir camp. And I said, "You're going to this thing." He said, "No, I'm not." I said, "Yes, you are." 9 or 10. But he did. And by the end of the week, he announced to me on Friday he was joining the choir. I said, "I don't think you can join the choir." And Betsy said, "Oh, yes, you can." So he did. And it truly changed our lives. It truly changed our lives. He has gone through the children's program. He is now, his voice changed, he's a member of the adult choir, but beyond the choir, he's a crucifer. He was your crucifer this morning. Right now, he's at the youth commission meeting, and he's gotten so involved in all aspects of the church. And were it not for his enthusiasm and attraction to the music program, we wouldn't be here doing this. Additionally, he's very interested in music across the board. He plays the trumpet, he's involved in music at school. And I am so grateful and so amazed at the foundational music education he's received from being part of this program. It's actually quite astounding to me. And it's not that he was involved in the children's choir, because he wasn't. The entire program here, it's deep, it's intergenerational. He's developed amazing relationships with people of all ages, Dr. Cross being one of his most favorite people in the world. And that's not something we could have gotten from going to a music class at a not that those are bad, but it really is the broader experience of being involved in not just the music program, but the entire church, and it draws him in. And I feel like that has been something that I can never express how grateful I am, and can never give back enough for what we've received as a family from participating. So for these reasons, I'm very excited to have a program that offers that opportunity, not only to children at St. John's, but to children in the community who might not otherwise have that, so.
It's a real pleasure to be here to talk about this subject. I grew up up north, went to private school, tried to join the choir, spoke to this choir leader, and he said, okay, sing along with me. And he said no. And then years later, we come to Tallahassee, and we have a couple of children, and they joined the choristers, and I can remember that we had a nanny at the time, because both my wife and I worked, and she would take the young daughter, Lydia, along to church when Nathan was singing in the choir. And she sort of sang along quietly by herself. And finally, I think Betsy said, well, you know, Lydia might as well join because she knows all the music. And this was just a tremendous opportunity for the two of them. Marissa and Betsy have talked about the value of singing choral music, but one of the things that was really true about this experience was that they had to be disciplined. This was something where you had to sit in your seat and pay attention. Sit upright, not slouch, and pay attention. And it was a great discipline for both of our children. And choral music is just that. You don't slouch when Betsy's standing in front of you. It's not a good idea. You'll hear about it. And so, thinking about this in terms of a school now, that would be open to a really broad range of children, I think is just fabulous. This is an incredible ministry that St. John's could have to the community, I think. So I'm really looking forward to it. I hope there will be strong support for it in the parish, and I think that's what I wanted to say.
So now it's question time?
Yes, I guess.
All right, let's hear it. Karen.
Who else is helping you with the day-to-day running? How are you hiring staff? What will the qualifications be? What are you gonna do if all your staff get sick at the same time? Things like that.
So the day-to-day for the inner days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when we're focusing on music, the main staff will be Betsy and me sort of tag teaming for the theory classes. But we'll also hire vocal coaches, and so basically that just means that like our staff singers here at St. John's, oftentimes students at FSU who have vocal pedagogy skills and enjoy working with choirs and with children, they will come in and work with the children during rehearsal time and also serve as potentially subs for one of us, so that I think rarely happens when we're both out. But also will help with the classes in theory and potentially the music or keyboard lessons as well. And so the scheduling is gonna be sort of, not all kids are gonna be taking piano at the same time, not all kids are gonna be doing a vocal coaching at the same time, and so it's gonna be very staggered so that it's not gonna be a class setting, it'll be more one-on-one teaching. The class setting will be rehearsal time where all of the kids are together. So that's sort of staffing for the music time. For Mondays and Fridays, which is our tentative schedule, is to still have the program available for kids on Mondays and Fridays, for parents and kids who just need the consistency of this is where they go after school 5 days a week. And that is gonna be partly us, but that's gonna be more volunteer led. And so we're kind of hoping that we'll be able to get potentially people in the parish who are interested in mentoring and serving kids. There are probably some members of the adult choir who might be retired and have flexibility. And so that's where we're gonna lean on the community more, is on those sort of bookend days where it's not so much music education as it is tutoring and general supervision for fun games and activities and stuff.
How will you keep these people, the adults and the children, safe?
We'll abide by safe church practices as we always do in terms of never one adult alone with one kid. And so when we do that one-on-one, I wanna be clear that it's under the umbrella of the safe church practices. The one-on-one is more about the attention to the child rather than the setting itself. Will always be in a setting where other adults are present. And so in terms of other safety, I mean, the kids while they're here will be limited to this campus and much like summer choir camp, which is what what we've done, the program in the summer, we have 5 days a week, we have kids come, it's about 6 hours they're here, which is longer than this will be.
Feels more like 10.
Yeah. And that has been a really good model for what we hope to do with the
Right.
choir school program throughout the year. And that has been really successful. It's been well staffed. Our volunteers have been super helpful. Young volunteers as well, youth and high school volunteers. So I feel confident that we have the structure in place.
So I know Cheryl has a question, but I want to just also interject. Years ago, I could look back on the timeline, that I talked with Valerie Arsenault. Y'all know Dr. Arsenault, she has a Tallahassee Choral String Academy. We would like to encourage some of the choristers that are in this program to take lessons with the Bach Crowley String Academy, because not everybody wants to play piano. I mean, you heard Jonathan Jackson's thing, but because that's another option. So, which is a great thing for us, and I hope for the String Academy, because I mean, the more opportunities we can offer the choristers, the better. So.
Yes, no, I was gonna say, everything sounds so lovely and wonderful, and I'm really excited. One barrier for us, like with extracurricular activities with kids, is like transportation, like getting your kid there. My parents actually, I work full-time, my husband works full-time, and they get Audrey to you guys on Wednesday evenings. So is there gonna be any kind of like little bus or transportation that can pick the kids up at school? Because I know a lot of after-school programs do something like that.
That is probably one of the biggest questions we're facing. And remember when I talked about Marissa, and she loves challenges, and she's a creative thinker? Well, we're gonna figure this out. I don't think the church wants to buy a van. I think I've heard that clearly. And so I'm not sure exactly how we're gonna manage it. I would love to hire, these are your parents?
Yes, these are my parents.
These are super grandparents, and they are, because they bring Audrey, but of course, but we don't know how we're gonna, we haven't solved that problem yet. And that's what I think our board, we're exploring some.
Yeah, I mean, so this has been brought up many times and we've had conversations about it and there's lots of interesting creative ways to go about this. There's potential partnerships with other churches or other after-school programs if there's some sharing of resources in that way. Partnership with Grace Mission, who does have transportation. Also like looking into bus routes to see for some of the older kids that take the school bus, would they be able to be dropped off like at a corner where like several adults could meet them and take them? So all of those things are sort of in tandem. The chicken and the egg situation that we have is we need to know what kids need transportation before we solve the transportation issue. And but we can't get kids until we have the transportation issue solved. And so, so that's something that we're in conversation with the board. Elizabeth Crow, who, as Betsy mentioned earlier, works with Grace Mission. And so, that was one of the biggest problems, and with Noah's Flood, especially getting the kids to the rehearsals. And so, we understand how important that is. It's gonna be a team effort to figure that out. And so Betsy is kind that I love problem solving, and I do, but I've never solved this kind of a problem before, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah,
Father Bill, yeah.
I just wanted to share, you know, we are a community, and it's one of the ways that other adults could be mentors for people. They don't have to have kids or grandkids in the program. I mean, you can do all the vetting on all that stuff. But I know I've had parishes where we had weekday programs, and that was very important that we tried to put need and resource together. Not necessarily with some bus running around picking up everybody, though that's, you know, that's one option. But, you know, we care for one another. And so, you know, it's like adopted parents or grandparents or, you know, so it's not every household is working for money.
Right, so for safe church practices, we would need 2 adults in the car
Right.
and probably a release form from the parents saying it's okay. But it's,
Right.
you know, so we're mindful of that. But, you know, that would be a great thing. I mean, they do Meals on Wheels, so instead of taking a meal to people, you take a child to church. That works, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, too, how is the wider community gonna find out about it?
Well, Elizabeth Crow had a great idea. Remember your idea? Well, she said, you've gotta get the right child, meaning the child that's passionate about music, wants to learn, and, you know, really need it. And so Elizabeth, you suggested that we go speak to music school teachers. Go to Riley, go to Appalachia, go to Kate Sullivan or Cobb, and just talk and say, who in your class do you think this would be something that they would love? Because we know, we're not expecting 100 people, I mean, that would be overwhelming. I guess that would be good, I don't know. But you know, 20, 30, 40 kids would be fantastic. So we're hoping to partner and ask people that we know in the community, which is why Carol Ann Matthews is such a good resource, because she knows everybody. And she's very excited about this venture. All right, Philip, you had, Philip.
One thing just to add on to that about getting the word out is that Jonathan Jackson, who gave the announcement today, is a professor of marketing at FSU. And his project is going to be developing a marketing strategy for the choir school, so I'm very excited. We've had some brainstorming sessions, but he's on the case.
Yes.
So,
You answer one of them for the size, so you're talking about like 20 to 25 would be sort of your starting or what you would hope to have.
yeah, that's sort of our goal.
And it doesn't start till fall of 2023.
And is there a cost, like is there any kind of, like how is it funded other than church resources and people donating, what's the?
Well, we met with one parishioner who kind of has some knowledge about the stuff, and he encouraged, first we're gonna say, it's free, and come. And then he said, no, you need, he said, no, you need to charge something because they won't value it basically if you don't charge. But then we have all scholarships.
Yeah.
So basically, we're mindful of people who can't afford music lessons and after-school care, private after-school care, that this would be something that they could do and it wouldn't cost them too much, or it wouldn't be exorbitant like it is now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Sandra.
You might have mentioned this and I maybe didn't hear an age group.
What's the age group are you looking for?
Initially, when we are recruiting kids for the beginning of this, we're hoping to get elementary school, and so starting at age 8. So currently we have a program here, the Joyful Noisemakers, for 6 and 7-year-olds. Typically in a child's development, 8 is the time where they can focus, at least starting to focus. And also read. I mean, anyone who's sung in choir or sung in anything, I mean, the hymnal's got a lot of words. Schisms, rent asunder, and, you know, there's just a lot that you have to get out of that little mouth. So 8 years old is kind of the starting point. I think that programs like this work when you can kind of go from the bottom to the top rather than, so the 8-year-olds become then the 10-year-olds who foster the new 8-year-olds and so forth. So we're hoping to get as many sort of 3rd and 4th grade as possible, and then as they grow through the program, it will fill out through, potentially through high school.
And I assume this is an academic year?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
September through May, but, well, no, August through May.
Oh, yes, whenever school is, we will do the school calendar.
Thank you.
Fair call.
I just think we're so fortunate to have this opportunity. It's so exciting because the work they've done and is obviously gonna instill so much confidence in the dream and the vision. And I was thinking back as a child, I mean, I'm 80, so I go back a long time here at St. John's and I think about the church was the only thing then. And then we have all this space, and what a wonderful way to fill this space, but who back then would have ever had the vision? And you all have such vision, not only for hopes and dreams, but for the practical, the important. And I just see us being able to build this into something wonderful, not for everybody involved, whether it's the community, whether it's the individual child, whether it's St. John's, the teachers, it just seems like I'm excited to see this generation coming forward with so much goodness that just is grand. Thank you for what y'all are doing. Thank you.
I wanted to just also piggyback on what Mary Call's saying, that this is just such a wonderful, wonderful opportunity, and I just want to bring a couple of points up, and one is on anyone at St. John's who ministers to a child goes through an intensive online course. I had to go through it just to be a substitute teacher. It's done through the Episcopal Church, so that the safety is really taken into consideration. And I just like the idea that, you know, when we're singing and using words or not, you know, not words, we're actually praising God. In the Old Testament, there were actually families, Judaic families, that were, their job was just to be in the temple and constantly sing praises. And they say that the angels in heaven are constantly singing praises to God. They don't use words, but they're singing. So it's a wonderful thing to be in the choir, to be that kind of a practice. And I also wanted to mention there have been a number of recent studies done that children in music programs have less substance use, less criminal behavior, you know, going to the juvenile justice system. And it's good for children on the spectrum. That there's something about the wiring of a child's brain, and at that early age, they're just like wonderful, wonderful sponges. And I want to say something about Betsy, and it's going to embarrass her because she's very humble. But she'll talk about it. Remember when Father Lonnie said that 98% of us are the main ministers of the church, are lay people. But right below it, on page 855 of the Book of Common Prayer, it says, what is the ministry? So it says there are 4 things, and remember the most important is first, and the last comes last. But the ministry is to represent Christ in this church, 1. 2, to bear witness to him wherever they may be. And 3, according to the gifts given them to carry on Christ's work of reconciliation in the world. And then the fourth is just to take place in the church and, you know, the worship and the governance. And having been in the choir for on and off for about 7 years, I just honestly say that Betsy does this naturally and in a wonderfully gifted way. She ministers to everyone. She has a sense of devoutness. She's certainly using her music gifts to for the Lord, and she just makes it all fun too. So again, I didn't want to embarrass her totally, but I just think that was a
It's a joyful place, and for me, I just love these people, that's y'all. And I really mean that, and it doesn't mean that you don't irritate me from time to time. I'll be honest, but it means that we share something very important, this community, this love of Christ and God and the community that Father Bill talked about, and to me that is so important because it sustains me and gives me the strength to carry out what I feel like God calls me to do, and it's the community, and that's y'all. So you all have that ability. Mary Paul has it like so much. I call her my cheerleader. I told her I was gonna be on my baton, she was gonna twirl too. But anyway, thank you for that. Any questions? Liz?
So if I'm understanding correctly, then there's gonna be partial tuition, some will support this, plus is, the church is gonna support this as
Okay.
well financially.
All right, that's good.
Private donations.
So for 2022 and 2023, nothing comes out of the operating budget. When I say operating budget, do y'all understand that? Okay, so that's not designated money. Then the plan is that beginning of 2024, gradually, in increments as the plan is, and of course, you know, plans can change, 25% and then 50% and 75% of what the choir school costs are will be added to the operating, so that it becomes a true ministry, and well, it is a ministry, but in the operating budget. So right now in our designated fund, we have about $60,000, and that's largely due, we had a children's, Shirley Brown, her husband died, there was a CD fund, about $30,000 that was then for children's choir camps, and I reached out to, Shirley has since passed on to her son, and he said, do whatever you wanna do, which makes me very, very nervous, I don't like that, so I almost stepped in. But anyway, that CD was converted and put into a choir school fund. And then we've had generous donations, we have not, I repeat, we have not seek out gifts because we need permission from the finance committee and the vestry to do that. Because that's their job, is to oversee that. So, but people have given gifts because they liked what they've heard and they wanna do that. But we haven't done that. And so we are gonna have a meeting with the powers that be to see when and if we can do that, to fundraise for the parts that are not covered. So that's basically about, I don't know, $150,000 for 5 years. Is that right?
And the earlier question that you had about the tuition, that is something that we're sort of flexible on at the moment, given that we entered this thinking, you know, totally free, no cost, absolutely. But we've been, over the past month or so, I've been meeting with countless people, trying to get their input, their advice, their thoughts, their reflections. And we've heard some kind of just different ideas about, you know, charging a little bit or charging what it actually costs, but being very clear that that can be waived if the family is not in a financial position to do it. Or to charge nothing, but then give the family the option that this is what it actually costs. Like, sort of like, you know, when you offset your carbon emissions on airplanes, you know, you can offset your chorister, you know, so there's different like options for what this might be. But the reality is, no matter what option that we do, it's pretty clear that fundraising is gonna be an incredibly important part of this project. And so that's sort of looking ahead is what we're gonna be looking at for the following year. And as Betsy said, stewardship is wrapping up and it's been a crazy time for anyone involved in church finance and giving. And so we're looking ahead to what might be our plan for the coming year.
What do you do about a child, we'll say Audrey, since she's in choir, if she really wants to continue to do ballet and it's on a Tuesday or a Thursday after school? It's not right now, but just in case there's some kind of activity and the child really wants to do both, including this. And if they had to choose, would the hours still be the same on Wednesdays and the child could still sing and then sing on Sundays? Would they be a part of the school or would they just be a part of the choir like they are now? What would the child do on a Wednesday if they came?
So, I'll answer the second question first. We want all choristers to be a part of the school. We don't want there to be separation.
Right.
We also want to meet kids where they are, especially the kids who are already here and who have already given so much to this program.
Okay.
And the answer, which probably isn't the best answer I can give, but it's the true one, is that we're gonna take this case by case.
Okay.
I don't wanna say off the bat, yeah, you can come once a week, I mean, that's
Yeah.
fine, you know?
Yeah.
But for families that are serious about this and wanna
Right.
commit, but also just life happens, we're just gonna have those individual conversations and see what we can do to make sure that kid is a part of the program. We don't want any kids to be behind, so like, oh, well, we covered that on Tuesday, but you weren't
You
here.
weren't here.
So that's really important for equity between the kids and also just feeling like the commitment is there.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be kind of conversations that we'll have.
And you should have heard Audrey this morning. She's got y'all know Audrey, she's about, how old is she?
She's 8.
8, cutest little thing, and she's got this mask on, and she's putting out sound through that mask. I mean, I can hear her singing. I can't
She
say that about
loves
some
it.
of the adults, but I can hear her. She definitely is a keeper, but her commitment level is very high.
Yes.
It is.
As the parents and grandparents are, so. All right, we need harder questions.
Yeah.
Liz,
So what are we gonna do about allowing them to practice their keyboarding skills and things? You know, these kids come and they get several.
I don't know, there again, it's gonna be flexibility, that could be, for example, let's say it's somebody who doesn't have a keyboard at home and they can't afford it. Well, if they're here Monday through Friday, it's possible that they could go into the choir room and a keyboard could be set up and they can practice. What we have on there, it says, just games or whatever, but it could also be an extension of what we do on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And I also want to add that one of the thoughts we had was that we would invite speakers to come on Monday and Friday to talk about hygiene, some life skills, just kind of basic, how do you live in this world and get along with people. So that's also something that we kind of have in back of our minds. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
No?
Ish.
Ish?
Well, we have several keyboards and part of we have a sort of a draft budget that has been part of what we presented to the vestry for
That's a bigger diddly.
Yeah, it is.
That's a bigger diddly.
Oh, is that true? Oh,
Y'all watch that show?
Yeah.
It is so funny. All right, sorry, Liz.
But this is, you tell the choristers all the time not to derail things, but
I know,
anyway.
but I do, sorry.
But in the budget, there's flexibility for materials, learning materials. A lot of that is the workbooks that we use, like curriculum stuff, but it also could go towards, another keyboard or something so that the kids have the opportunities. They have the keyboard in the chapel. There's obviously the one in the choir room. We have, the two other ones. And anyway, so we'll set up kind of in areas that are free and work with the kids' schedules to make sure that they have access when they're here.
Yeah, and we don't envision, I wanna address this about, with Bach Carly, where they're in the schoolrooms there. And as that expands and grows, I think we wanna keep our choristers together, it's easier that way. So it might be that, church, chapel, we have lots of Colleen Hall, we just, knowing that of course other things happen in here. But, we wanna keep it separate that way so that that the Bach Carly String Academy can do what it needs to do and we do what we need to do. And we don't have to, worry about space. And we think we can make that happen. And then they were, Brian?
No, David Wheeler said it's
Oh.
separately.
I thought that was a strange hand thing, you were just pointing at Dave.
Yeah, I don't do movable dough.
Brian, this is an ongoing thing we have with each other. All right, go.
Comment, a story. Summer, last summer, it wasn't this summer, it was, maybe it was the year before, when I was working as sexton during choir camp. And going into the church and going into being just around the campus and hearing the kids in the choir camp. And I got really emotional, as those of you who know me, I tend to be, like my father. And I thought, you know, we're a lot of us my age and older are wringing our hands about the future of the Episcopal Church and its worship and its music. And I saw Marissa of her generation and the kids' younger generations embracing traditional church music, and I thought, I think the demise of the Episcopal Church has been greatly exaggerated, and I think it might persist for another couple generations. And I don't have any money, but I will support this any way I can.
Well, thank you for bringing up that, because in the brochure, if you look, open it up, and on the left panels, it talks, I don't know, Karen, would you read it out loud? Yeah, right here, this panel. Or do you want me to, or you
Right
want me
here?
Yeah.
The term choir school, while today sometimes used to denote a private boarding school, is used here to recall the roots of an ancient Christian practice of educating children in music called the Scala Cantorium, or School of Singing. Though concerned primarily with the study of music, the school provided a holistic and well-rounded education characterized by a combination of intense study and practical application. And our mission is to offer a challenging and immersive program of music study for all children, regardless of means or background, by giving them a chance to sing alongside professionals in an intergenerational setting and in a safe place.
Thank you, that's great. So that part about generations, this is nothing new. We just stole it, okay? So this is how, you have your men and boy choirs in England. This is what this is. We're just not teaching them art, history, and math and all that, but we are giving them life skills. So, thank you. Any other questions? You don't have to ask a question.
And you can also email, and if your question comes up 5 minutes after you leave this, you can call me, or I want to continue having these conversations throughout the whole year. So thoughts and questions
and ideas.
Thoughts, yes, and ideas. And just thank you so much for coming and spending an hour sitting to this. It means a lot that you came.
Will you be keeping the people informed of the progress you're making?
That's a really great question. Yes, we will. So there's a mechanism in place to keep the vestry informed. Currently, there's a vestry subcommittee that reports back on the progress that we make. The Choir School Advisory Board meets every 2 months. But I would like to, I think, figure out, soon we're gonna work on getting information onto the website. That would be a good opportunity, and also through our constant contact music emails. So many of you are probably on that list, and so, yes, definitely.
That's good. All right.
Thank you.
No more, go in peace.
Right.